Hey guys, it's Abby from Autumn of Pellinor, and today I'll be discussing my July reads and how I got on with my TBR, which is not very well. So, let's start with what I did end up reading this month. So, the first book I read in the month was Holes by Louis Sachar. I read it in one day, started on the second, finished it on the second, and I gave it 4 stars. Really enjoyed this one. Then I read Midnight, started this on the second, finishes on the second. It's Midnight by Derek Landy. It's the next book in the Skullduggery Pleasant series. I absolutely love this series. They will always all get 5 stars from me. The next book I read was Small Steps, again by Louis Sachar. It's the sequel to Holes, and I started it on the second, is that what it says? Does it say second or third? It says second. And I finished it on the third. This one wasn't quite as good. I gave it 3 stars, but still an enjoyable read and nice to be back in that world. I'm sorry about the dogs barking. I don't like my new neighbours. The next book I read was Airhead by Meg Cabot. I gave this 4 stars, and again it took me 1 day to read. This surprised me. I was expecting to really dislike it because it's like contemporary, and I tend to avoid contemporary, but I really enjoyed it, whizzed through it, can't wait to get to the rest. The next book I read was on my Kindle. It was Some Assembly Required. This was by Michael Strollo. I gave this 3 stars. I'm tempted to move that down to a 2. I didn't like this. I don't want to be mean to the author, but it was just very unenjoyable. The writing style was dodgy. There was a tiny little bit that kept being able to pull me through. I started it on the 31st of May, don't judge me, and I finished it on the 5th of June, but that was just because I read it on the train home and there was nothing else to read. Like, that's what I was reading on the train. So yeah, that was probably my worst read of the month. Like, I've given it the same rating as Small Steps, but this was horrendous, so I probably should drop it down to a 2 or a 1. The next book I read was The Girl with All the Gifts. I was listening to this via audiobook, so I started on the 3rd of May and finished on the 6th of June, which is decent for an audiobook that I only listen to whilst I'm doing chores, such as, you know, going food shopping or cleaning the house and things like that. Really enjoyed that, gave it 4 stars. The ending, for some reason, didn't quite satisfy me, and I'm looking forward to reading the second book, but it was really, really enjoyable. Then the next book that I read was Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken. I borrowed that from the library, so I don't have it, and I currently don't know how to edit very well, so I can't put it in. Apologies, but I'll figure that out somehow, eventually, one day. I started that on the 21st of May and didn't finish it until the 7th of June. That is because I visited home at the very beginning of June and very end of May, and so I had to leave it and then start it again once I got back. I probably would have finished it in about 3-4 days if I'd just been staying at my home then, at my uni flat. Then I read Traitor to the Throne by Alwyn Hamilton. Again, this was borrowed from the library, so I don't have it here. I gave this 5 stars, absolutely love this series so far. I started it on the 8th of June and finished it on the 14th. I am not pushing myself through these books, I've said this before. I am letting myself take my time with these if I need it. I'm really enjoying them. Then the next book I read was Etiquette and Espionage by Gail Carriger, because Zoe from You're a Book Nerd Zoe recommended it to me. Not directly to me, she just kept going on about it in her videos, and now she's telling me I need to read all of Gail Carriger, so I guess she kind of did. But yes, I really enjoyed this. I gave it 5 stars. I started it on the 5th of June, finished it on the 15th of June. I think it was because I was doing work and reading other books at the same time, because the library books were due back and this is mine. Really enjoyed this. I absolutely love Ali Carter's Gallagher Girls, and this is like a steampunk historical version, and I would love them to do a collab. I think I've said this before, but I would love them to do a collab. So yes, really enjoyed this. Definitely my sort of thing. I love spies. I love unexpected. Yeah, it's good. Thank you, Zoe. Then the next book I read was, A Place Called Perfect by Helena Duggan. I knew I'd said that name wrong somehow. I gave this 4 stars and I read it in 1 day. I don't know why I didn't quite give it 5. It wasn't quite perfect enough. No, okay. So it wasn't quite a 5 star, definitely a 4.5 rather than a 3.5 or a 4. Really enjoyed it, really looking forward to the next book. and yeah, I recommend this. It's a middle grade book, but I really loved it. Also, look at the illustrations, they're beautiful. Next one was A Sky Painted Gold. This was by Laura Wood. It is coming out in 2 days, I think. I think it's coming out on the 6th of July. Can't confirm, because I'm vaguely useless. So I have, this is one of my first ever physical arcs. So excited. So I have an arc of this, and I got this at the NYA Lit Fest. Really, really good. I gave it 4 stars. It made me cry, it made me happy, I was so invested. I read it again in one day. I had such a good few reading days around then. It was amazing. It's set in 1920s England? Yes, England. They go to London at one point. So it's set in 1920s England at the very end of the 20s, and it's kind of a coming of age story of a girl going between kind of 16 and 19, I think, is the oldest that she is. And despite that being relatively younger than me, especially at the beginning, it's really, really enjoyable. And I would absolutely love a sequel based in this world. I want to know more of what happens to the characters. It's such a good book. This is amazing, and I definitely think you should go pick it up. Like, I've not been paid by the author. I would happily be paid by the author, but I've not been. I would disclose it if I had. It's just a really, really good read, and I recommend it. And then the last book that I did read in the month of June was The Malinowski Papers by H. Jones, which I read on my Kindle. Now, as I've mentioned in the vlog, my reading vlog for that area, which may or may not be up by now, I've been busy, I could barely put this down. This technically took me 2 days to read, and that's just because my boyfriend was visiting and we were actually doing stuff. So we were seeing friends at the pub, we were going bowling, we were going, we were doing things, and it took up time away from the book. So I started it a little bit after midnight on the 22nd of June, and I couldn't put it down, so I had to be dragged to bed at about 4 AM. And then once we got up, I had to be made to get ready, and then I just sat reading, and then we got to the pub and I sat reading until Fred turned up, our friend. I talked for a bit. Oh, well, the boys are back to reading. And I didn't manage to quite finish it on that day. I would have loved to just sit there and read that, so technically it took me 2 days to finish, because I finished it on the morning of the 23rd. I was like 97% of the way through. I finished the last 3%. It is about the Romanovs, so the Tsar's family, the last ones, I think, the one with Anastasia, and oh, did any of them survive? Did any of them get out? And it's a fictional work, but it's written in a way that I'm like, wait, I have to go check, is this fictional? It's really, really good, really, really interesting. I knew nothing other than the generic, oh yeah, the Romanovs, don't people pretend that, yeah, That's all I knew. I just knew the generic, everybody knows it thing. And I couldn't put it down. The way it's written is so beautiful and so different, and it also engrosses you in the world of that area of Russia at the time, as well as shocking you and surprising you with different bits, and showing you how they integrated into America, because lots of people moved to America afterwards, to escape from the harshness of the Russian regime at the time, as they are portraying it. I couldn't put it down. It was such a good read. Is it still going? Yes. I can copy that. So now onto how well I did with the TBR that I set for that month. So I'll go from the bottom up, because it looks better. Because the Malinowski Papers was the last one I set. I read that. The In the Shadow of Hitler by Richard Vaughan Davies I read at the very beginning of this month, in July. So it's currently the 4th of July, and I finished it this morning. This morning? Yes, this morning. That took me a second. So I finished that a few days later, but I finished it. Then the next one was A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. As I said, finished that, loved it. Really enjoyed all 3 of those books. The next 3 I didn't read. King's Gauge by Victoria Aveyard, I didn't even crack the spine. And I don't think I will be anytime soon, because I have other books that I want to read, and I won't be buying the last book until it's out in paperback, so I have a bit of time. Othello, I am still reading. I'm still on page 53 out of 138 or something. I loved the other 2 that I read. Can't get into this one. I just can't. So I'm going to try and push through. I'm pretty sure, I will check in my bullet journal, yeah, I've put it back in for my July TBR, so fingers crossed I'll get it done this month, but if I don't, I don't. And then the other book that I didn't get finished was Orphan Monster Spy by Matt Killeen. Matt Killeen, because it's down there and I can see it. This is another World War II based book, so it's something that I really, really want to read, but then I unexpectedly got the audiobook for The Girl in the Blue Coat a lot earlier than I should have. I should have gotten it at the end of last month, and I got it kind of more near to the beginning. And because they're similar genres and similar areas, one is in Germany and one is in the Netherlands. However, they're both set during World War II, and I just didn't want to read them both at the same time and have them get mixed up. So that's why I haven't read Orphan Monster Spy, and I'm still listening to The Girl in the Blue Coat. So Orphan Monster Spy will probably be on my August TBR, because I really want to read it, but I haven't finished Girl in the Blue Coat yet. So that's the reasoning why those haven't been finished. King's Cage was just not a priority at the minute. It's not something I want to pick up because it's a very long book. It doesn't look too big. It's like, is it comparable to anything? It's probably a bit bigger than this. Yeah, it is. It's like yay big, but the writing's tiny and like right squeezed to the edges, and I'm not in the mood for it right now. I'm really looking forward to it, but not right now. So that's my June. It was June. That's my June wrap up. I didn't get to half of the books that I wanted to read, but I did read the other half that I did want to read, and I got to quite a few more as well, and really enjoyed the majority of them. So